Your alarm goes off before the room has become a room. For a few seconds, everything is just dark, fabric, and that little rectangle making demands from the nightstand. You reach for it before you even decide to reach for it. The screen lights up, and the world enters your bed all at once. Messages, bills, weather, a calendar already crowded with other people's plans. Then, outside the window, a bird starts moving through the branches like it has never heard of a deadline. A squirrel runs along a fence without asking permission from anyone. A dog pauses on the sidewalk, lifts its nose, and seems to read an entire invisible newspaper in the air. And in that half-awake moment, it feels obvious. They have it better. No rent, no inbox, no boss, no forms, no one asking a raccoon to create a stronger personal brand. Animals look like they are just living. Wake up, move, eat, sleep, vanish into the trees. But that feeling is a trick. Because when we look at an animal and think it is free, we are usually watching from a place the animal would consider unbelievably safe. Start with the squirrel. From your window, it looks almost insulting. It can go across roofs, fences, gutters, branches, telephone wires. You need keys, shoes, sidewalks, property laws, and a reason. The squirrel just goes. But if you watch it closely for 10 minutes, the freedom starts to look different. It is not strolling, it is solving. Every pause is a scan. Every twitch is information. The open grass is not a lawn. It is a place where a hawk can see you. The tree is not scenery. It is shelter. The fence is not a cute shortcut. It is an elevated escape route. The squirrel's world is not open space. It is a map of possible death with little safe corridors drawn through it. Biologists sometimes call this the landscape of fear. It means an animal's world is shaped not only by where food is, but by where danger might be. The classic example is Yellowstone. Wolves were reintroduced there in 1995, and the story people often tell is simple. Wolves returned, elk got scared, elk stopped overgrazing, plants recovered, rivers changed. The real science is messier than the viral version. Weather, human hunting, drought, and many other factors all matter. But one part is very real. Predators change how prey experience geography. A valley is not just a valley anymore. A riverbank is not just water and grass. For an elk, it can become a place where escape is harder, visibility is worse, and a wrong decision has teeth. The elk is technically free to walk there. In the same way, you are technically free to walk across a highway at rush hour. The option exists. The body says no. Once you see that, animal freedom starts to shrink. A mouse may spend most of its life in a tiny home range because the familiar route is the only route it can read fast enough. A reef fish can leave the coral, but a few body lengths into open water, it becomes a bright moving object in a world of mouths. A deer can cross the clearing, but the clearing has eyes in it. What looks to us like wilderness is often a system of invisible walls. Hunger pushes from one side, fear pushes from the other, and the animal lives in the narrow path between them. Then there is the cage inside the body. This is the one humans miss because it can look so beautiful. An Arctic tern may fly from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back, chasing summer across the planet. That sounds like the dream of total freedom until you realize the bird is not choosing a sabbatical. It is being pulled by light, weather, hormones, inherited maps, and a nervous system tuned by generations of survival. A salmon can cross an ocean and return to the river where it was born. It is one of the great navigational miracles on Earth. But it is also a command. Its body becomes an arrow pointed toward one final river. A sea turtle hatchling scrambles toward the brightest horizon, a rule that worked for millions of years, until beachfront lights began pretending to be the moon. Instinct is not a suggestion. It is an instruction that arrives before thought. You can see the shape of that instruction most clearly when you remove an animal from the world it was built for. In 1993, visitors at the Central Park Zoo watched a polar bear named Gus swimming behind glass. He had food. He had medical care. He was safe from starvation, hunters, and storms. But in the mid-1990s, Gus became famous for swimming compulsive figure eights over and over for hours. People turned him into a symbol of anxious New York life, which is a very human thing to do to a bear. The zoo eventually brought in a behavioral therapist, added toys, training, and changes to his habitat. The behavior improved, but it did not simply disappear. That is the hard lesson of captivity. Safety is not the same as freedom. Food arriving on schedule is not the same as a life that fits the body. A polar bear is made for distances, smells, ice, uncertainty, searching. Take away the dangers, and sometimes you also take away the world the animal knows how to be alive inside. This is where humans become strange, because we did almost the opposite. We built cages to escape other cages. Agriculture tied people to fields, but it made starvation less random. Cities trapped people in walls, rules, and schedules, but they protected them from weather, predators, and isolation. Money trapped us in work, but it also let strangers cooperate across oceans without ever meeting. Your day can feel absurdly unfree. You wake to an alarm, move through streets designed by someone else, sit under artificial light, answer messages from people who are not in the room, and trade hours of your life for numbers in an account. But those numbers can become heat in winter, antibiotics, a roof, food from another continent, and surgery after an accident that would have killed almost any wild animal. The cage is real. So is the bargain. Animals pay in terror, humans pay in abstraction. A zebra worries about the lion in the grass. You worry about an email that ended with a period instead of an exclamation point. The embarrassing part is that the body may treat both as threats. Your heart rate changes, your muscles tighten, stress chemistry enters the blood. But the zebra's danger usually resolves. It runs or it does not. Your danger can sit in your mind for months while nothing physical is happening. That is one of the weirdest costs of human freedom. We escaped many immediate threats, then evolved a mind that can manufacture future ones. A gazelle does not lie awake wondering whether it chose the wrong career. That is a human achievement, and it is awful. And then the question gets more uncomfortable because even inside your private mind, some of your freedom may not be as free as it feels. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet asked people to flex their wrist whenever they felt like it, while he measured electrical activity in the brain. The famous finding was that the brain showed a readiness signal before people reported the conscious decision to move. Scientists still argue about what that means. It does not prove free will is fake, but it does make one thing harder to ignore. The little narrator in your head is often late to the meeting. Hunger starts before you explain it. Fear starts before you justify it. Habit moves before you name it. Your phone pings and your hand is already halfway there. A bakery smell hits the sidewalk, and suddenly your afternoon has a pastry in it. You are not a ghost piloting a body. You are a body that learned to tell stories about why it turned left. This is where animals stop seeming like the opposite of us and start seeming like our reflection with fewer decorations. In B.F. Skinner's lab, pigeons learned to peck keys for food. When rewards came unpredictably, the behavior could become astonishingly persistent. Now, picture a person refreshing a feed. Different species, different machine. Same ancient loop. Maybe this time. Maybe the reward is coming now. The human cage has passwords and glowing glass. The animal cage has hunger, mating season, territory, and fear. But the machinery underneath is older than both. So animals are not simply free. A wolf may roam hundreds of square miles, but it is bound to prey, pack status, injury, winter, scent boundaries, and calories. A songbird can lift into the sky, but it cannot decide that being nocturnal would better fit its personality. A fox can vanish into the woods, but it cannot opt out of being a fox. And when humans change an animal's pressures, the animal itself can change. In Siberia, beginning in the late 1950s, Dmitry Belyaev and Lyudmila Trut bred silver foxes for one trait: how calmly they responded to humans. Within a few generations, some foxes began wagging their tails and seeking contact. Later, many became more dog-like in behavior and even appearance. The experiment is famous because it showed how fast selection on behavior can reshape an animal. But it also reveals the trade. To become less afraid, the foxes became more compatible with us. They gained comfort by losing some of the wild suspicion that once helped them survive. Domestication is not just kindness. It is a negotiation over what kind of life a body is allowed to have. And humans domesticated ourselves too. Not in exactly the same way, but close enough to feel it. We became animals who can sit quietly in rooms with strangers, lower our voices, stand in lines, follow rules, delay pleasure, and cooperate with people we will never see again. That is not simple nature. That is a massive behavioral achievement. It is also exhausting. Every day, your freedom is negotiated with the group. Arrive at this time, wear this, say it this way. Do not shout in the grocery store just because some ancient part of your nervous system would enjoy it. But here's the turn that matters. Animals are mostly bound by the world they can perceive. A tick waits for heat and the smell of mammal skin. A bat builds the night from echoes. A dog lives inside a cathedral of scent that you can barely imagine. Humans have a sensory bubble too. We miss most smells, most light, most vibrations, most of reality. But we found a loophole. We can learn that the bubbles exist. We can build microscopes and discover worlds too small for our eyes. We can build telescopes and find galaxies. We can notice an instinct rising in us, give it a name, and sometimes refuse it. Not always. Not heroically every time. But sometimes. A fasting person can be hungry and still not eat. A frightened firefighter can run toward danger. Someone raised inside one belief system can examine it, leave it, and build a different life. That is not freedom from biology. Nothing living gets that. It is freedom inside biology. The ability to feel the wall and ask who built it. So tomorrow, when your alarm goes off and the bird outside your window is already moving through the trees, it may still look freer than you. In one sense it is. It has no rent. It owes no status update. It will not lose a morning to a calendar invite. But it is also being carried by forces it cannot name, through a world of invisible danger, inside a body giving orders in a language older than thought. And you, half awake, annoyed, phone glowing in your hand, are trapped by systems so imaginary they had to be taught to you. But because they are imaginary, they can change. That may be the most human freedom of all. Not the freedom to do anything. No animal has that. The freedom to notice the cage and then ask which bars are real.